Alright, hello everybody. I am going to teach you how to build an army for the Middle-earth strategy battle game on Tabletop Simulator. So the first step here is we're going to collect the mods that we need to collect. So in this search, if you just type Middle-earth or MESBG to abbreviate Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game, you will see a ton of maps. I'm not going to worry about showing you maps, just because there's one mod that I'm going to show you that you can just load almost any map. It just won't have pre-built narrative scenarios for you, but it'll still be easy to work with. If you want, you can search up and get any battle map just by searching. There's a ton on here, literally like pages of just battle maps for this game. If I walked you through every single one of them, we'd be here for an hour probably. So instead, we're going to load this one. So it's Middle-earth SBG by StarRider64. So you're going to subscribe to that. And I already have this one loaded in here. So this one is important to have because it basically has the entire collection of armies. It has the full army books. It goes through all of the armies. Actually, I wonder if... Hang on, does it... Interesting. I think it's actually missing the Hobbit armies. Maybe? I just now... Huh. Let me... Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll have to take a look later at where the Hobbit army books are, but it does not look like they're in this mod. They might not be on Tabletop Simulator right now then. Well, I'll find it eventually. Actually, it doesn't really matter too much because we're gonna get a look at the unit cards. We're just missing the army bonus details, so I'll look at that later. But this mod's important because it contains the Lord of the Rings army books. Because there's two army books, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit army books. And the Lord of the Rings army book will have basically every army that's featured in the books and in the movies. This mod also has a lot of handy tools like the To-Wound chart, which you will be referring to constantly while playing. So this is a very handy tool. The missile weapon chart is also a very handy tool to have on hand at any given moment. And then this little cheat sheet. This will help us learn the game quickly when we're doing our first games. So that's a handy tool that we will be using. It also has the rulebooks on hand and lists of magical powers. And then a collection of special rules, which are like active and passive abilities that heroes and certain other models will have. So that'll be really handy as well. All of the special rules and magical powers, all of these tools are actually in the rulebook as well. But the rulebook is like, it's a textbook. It's a textbook. So quick reference sheets make life easy, especially when you're learning the game. Now, this mod also has a lot of the miniatures. However, I'm going to show you a different mod for collecting the miniatures because I don't like how this one's organized. There's like 3 different elf armies, and this mod maker decided to put all of the elves in one bag, and there's a hodgepodge of stuff in this bag and in this bag, and evil army is some of the same level of organization. I don't like how they organize it in this mod. So I'll be showing you a different mod for that. But this one is really nice because it just has maps that you can use like this and just drop that on the board. And this is your playing area right there. You can also just right click it and hit search and pick what you want. This is just one set of maps. There's, from what I understand, like there's a bunch of maps in here. There's wait, did I hit this one? Yeah, see, there's bags within bags. So there's plenty of maps you can load in this one. I definitely prefer some of the more independent mods for the narrative play scenarios, though. Narrative play is like, to explain that real quick, narrative matches are basically, you're actually playing out the events in the books and movies. Like the Battle of Helm's Deep, for example, would be a narrative scenario. These maps I would probably use more for open, casual skirmishes or matched play or so on and so forth. We'll get more into the different ways of play in a different video, because in this video it's mainly just going to be about getting you set up. So yeah, that's this mod. Let's see here, what's next on the list? Okay, so we are going to alright, so I have it written down, so I copy pasted it, but so Middle Earth, SB or ME, SBG, Legendary Legions, and unit cards. So they will both be by Dat Ork, and you're gonna want to subscribe to the evil and the good one. They're separate because, as you can see, they have a lot of stuff on the table there. So I'm gonna go ahead and load one of these up. Oh wait, I don't have it in that folder. That's my bad. Okay, let's load up the good one. I'm just gonna wait for this thing to load. So what you will find is a lot of the mods that do the models, as we're gonna get into it soon, a lot of the mods separate the Lord of the Rings armies and the Hobbit armies. but this one with all the data cards and legendary legions, they have it all. Bjorning's is not a Lord of the Rings army. It's a Hobbit army. Same with Airborne Reclaimed, obviously. The way the two work together basically is you basically can't bring a Hobbit army into a Lord of the Rings narrative scenario or vice versa. But as far as matched play goes and open play, it doesn't matter. A Hobbit army can play against a Lord of the Rings army, and it'll be fine. The only thing is there is an allies feature, so you can build a roster from 2 armies, but they have to be historical allies for army bonuses to be maintained. Otherwise, you would lose the army bonus. We'll go more into allies matrix later, because that's a different kind of list building that I'm not really wanting to cover here. It could take a bit of explaining. So let's keep it simple for now. Let's look at Gondor real quick. Although technically in the rulebook, it's called Minas Tirith and not Gondor. So these are examples of just heroes of Gondor. Now, Aragorn here is a hero of legend. Now, what a hero of legend is it's basically the highest tier of hero, or heroic tiers, I should say. That's what it's referred to in the book. Heroes of legend can have 18 models in their warband. This game works completely differently from most Games Workshop tabletop games in the sense that every unit or every model is a unit and acts independently. However, in games typically they still have to be part of a warband unless you're doing a small skirmish with no heroes, which would be considered open play. Open play is kind of whatever rules go. It's typically just agreed upon by the 2 people playing. But Heroes of Legend can have up to 18 models in their warband. And Heroes of Legend also get a last stand special rule. And what that means is the first time... So, to explain this, I should probably get into this real quick. So, once a force loses half of its models, which always inevitably happens, unless one player is just stomping the other player, your entire army typically has to take a courage test. If they fail the courage test, then they immediately leave the board. This is tested by every single unit. Alternatively, when you get a hero with a last stand special rule, so if Aragorn has to take a courage test, they will pass the test automatically, as long as Aragorn is the army leader. Which, if Aragorn Kino Lesar is on the field, he has to be the army leader, because there won't be another hero of legend in an army with him, typically. There's also a stand fast special rule, but we'll get into that later. Last Stand is basically just a better version of it. let's get into the next tier of hero real quick. Let's see. So Faramir is a hero of valor. It's basically tier 2, while Hero of Legend is tier 1. Heroes of Valor can have up to 15 followers in their warband. So Faramir might have like 8 Rangers and 7 Warriors of Gondor. That would be his army right there. Heroes of Valor can also be the leader of the army. They don't get any special rules like Heroes of Legend do. Let's find a Hero of Fortitude next, because that is tier 3. Alright, let's look at this generic captain. Hero of Fortitude. So Heroes of Fortitude can lead up to 12 followers in their warband. So you could just stick an even mix of... Well, you wouldn't want to stick an even mix of warriors and archers, but... and rangers, but yeah. 12 followers. Heroes of Fortitude can also be the leader of an army. But keep in mind, when you have... Let's say you have 2 Heroes of Fortitude and 1 Hero of Valor in your army. The Hero of Valor has to be the army leader. It's whoever is the higher tier hero. If everybody's the same tier, then you can just decide who the army leader is. Now let's find a minor hero. Okay, Damrod here is a minor hero. Now what this means is a minor hero can have up to 6 followers in their warband. Now, minor heroes cannot actually lead armies. So, keep that in mind as you build your armies. Their minor heroes can really only be deployed alongside, at minimum, a Hero of Fortitude. And, yeah. There's also independent heroes. Oh, no, we do have one in the Gondor roster. Peregrine Took is an independent hero. Now, independent heroes do not lead troops at all, but they can be part of another hero's warband. So, for example, I might take Gandalf the White into my Gondor army, right? And he's a hero of valor, so he would lead up to 15 followers, and one of those 15 followers could be Peregrine Took. Alternatively, independent heroes can also just act on their own. But in this case, I probably wouldn't have Peregrine acting on his own, just because he is a hobbit and he does not have the best stats, per se. So he definitely needs to be, alongside other allies. Otherwise, that could be trouble for him. Okay. I will do a quick overview of the stats. So, MV is movement. I'm kind of covering that up with my mouse, my bad. MV is movement. So that's 6 inches. Pretty much, with the exception of hobbits, basically all infantry gets 6 movement. That's 6 inches, by the way. So everybody gets that typically. Movement can be altered depending on Um, Sometimes movement is ignored depending on heroic actions, which we will get into later. Let's keep it simple for now. So, fight value, that's what the F stands for. So the 6 on the left is Aragorn's fight value. The 3 plus is his ranged fight value. Now, so every unit has these two numbers, the left number and the right number after the slash. And the right number is always what number you have to roll to hit. So the lower the number, the better. 3 plus means Aragorn has a 2/3 chance to hit at ranged, which is actually very good. I think 3 plus might be the best. Might be the best value for rolling to hit on ranged. Now the S is strength. As you might expect, the strength value has a lot to do with dealing damage. It's actually directly connected to how likely it is your attack is going to deal a wound, break through armor, etc. And then D is your defense value. 7 is actually a really high defense value, which is to be expected. This is Aragorn King Elessar. Like, of course, his defense is going to be really high. And then the A is attacks. This is the number of attacks. So this will affect how many dice you roll when you're rolling to wound. And you could be rolling to wound on the same model, or it could be like 3 models that are connected to Aragorn. Now this W is wounds. So Aragorn has 3 wounds. If he drops below 3, he would die. That might seem like a really small number, but this game, from what I understand, it's a lot harder to wound a model than it is in the other Games Workshop games. I've seen like a lot of Games Workshop models have like 22 wound counts. Now I have yet to play a lot of them, but in this game, like, it really is a lot harder to deliver wounds than it is in other ones, and especially to heroes. And we'll get into more of why heroes later. But yeah. The C is courage. So we talked about courage tests earlier, which trigger when a force falls below 50% of its original model count. So the way that works is you will roll 2 d6s, and you will add that to this base courage value, which is 6. And as long as it's above 10, you pass the courage test. And if you pass the courage test, you obviously don't flee the field. And this is very important because, frankly, it seems to me that every game will deviate into both players getting to this break point where they have to roll for courage tests. It doesn't seem to be very common, from what I've seen, that both players aren't rolling courage tests for the last several turns. Now, these 3 stats right here, you won't see these on most army units because these are heroic stats. So the M is might, the W is will, and the F is fate. Now, might is what's used for a lot of these heroic actions, which we'll get into the specific heroic actions later. But might is probably the single most important heroic stat in the game. You'll be using it all the time. You'll be using will more in regard to casters. I've actually played a few games already without using a single will point, which kind of surprised me. But it makes sense when you realize if nobody has a caster, this is not used at all. Will points are basically used to resist spells or to cast spells. And then this F is fate. Fate can be used, well, as you might expect if you've played many tabletop games. It's basically used to do rerolls. We'll go over specific situations in another video in regard to fate, but you can use it to say, I don't know, your hero's on one wound, and this troll is just rolled to deliver the final wound to Aragorn. You can use a fate point and basically reroll. So typically your heroes are not going to die unless you are depleted on fate points. And maybe depleted on might points too, because there are things heroes can do with might points for defense. But we'll get into all that specific stuff later. We're kind of just getting started, and I figured it was important to talk about the stats so that everybody kind of knows what's generally good as they build their armies. There's all kinds of special rules here too. We won't go over every single special rule. I'll let you guys kind of read the descriptions of these special rules and these abilities. Kind of judge what's good. Like I said, the special rules that like we see here, all of these can be found in the first mod I showed you. And by the way, the names of each mod will be in the description of this video. So we looked in detail at some army cards. So there's a bunch of armies in here. We're going to talk real quick about legendary legions. So this mod also has a bunch of legendary legions in here. Let's look at Defenders of Helm's Deep. So legendary legions are basically a special way to build your army. Most armies will typically be like, I don't know, a full Rohan army led by Theoden and consisting mainly of like Riders of Rohan. Let's actually look at that. So like it'll mainly consist of like Riders of Rohan maybe, and let's get some horse archers out of the Rohan Outriders. And then the Rohan Royal Guard. That might be most of what my Rohan army consists of, right? Not a whole lot of other stuff. Maybe I'll also have Éomer in there and Éowyn, Elfhelm, and an ideal pick would also be Gamling, because he has a really good banner. Which banners are actually very good in this game. But the Royal Standard is kind of nuts. I'll let you read on why later, but yeah. So that might be a normal army, but my Defenders of Helm's Deep, it tells you on this card what your army can be consisted of. And this army obviously lets you basically recreate the Battle of Helm's Deep with Theoden, Gamling, and then Aldor and Haleth are kind of they're kind of memes, but they're actually decent heroes. Aldor, if you don't know, was the archer in the movie who loosed a accident shot and killed the first Urukai of the night. And Haleth, son of Hama, I'm sure you guys are familiar with his whole interaction with Aragorn if you've seen the movies. And then what's nice is it includes Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Haldir, and it allows you to take Galadrim, which normally you wouldn't be able to take any Lothlorien troops without some kind of penalty. So this Legendary Legion basically allows you to combine some Rohan miniatures with some Fellowship miniatures with some Lothlorien miniatures, which is really nice. It's really cool. Legendary Legions, like I said, just allow you to recreate the themes of the movies and books and kind of enjoy these thematic battles. Now, they also get some really nice perks. So under additional rules, we've got Defenders of Helm's Deep Force must include Theoden. Theoden is always the army leader. All models from this Legendary Legion must have the infantry keyword, so you can't have cavalry units in this army, which sounds about right. Defenders of Helm's Deep Legendary Legion may only have a maximum of 33% of its models with the Lorien keyword. So basically 1/3 of your army is the maximum amount of Lorien models you're allowed to have. Now, we get lots of special rules here. So, Rohan infantry models armed with throwing spears can use them as standard spears in addition to their normal use. However, if a model uses their spear as a throwing spear in a turn, they cannot use it as a standard spear in the same turn. Basically, every weapon has unique abilities. We'll get into that later, but I will tell you right now, throwing spears are very good. It's like basically getting an extra attack whenever you charge. Give them a volley. Models from this Legendary Legion armed with either a bow, longbow, or elf bow may increase the range of their type of bow from 24 inches to 30 inches, provided that they have not moved that turn. Most maps are honestly not big enough to warrant this, but if you're fighting on a Helm's Deep battle map, which they do exist in the workshop for Tabletop Simulator, you will actually get use out of that. Fall back to the keep is the final special rule. If this force is broken, then warrior models from this force add 1 to their courage value. Additionally, if this force is broken, friendly warrior models may re-roll failed courage tests while they are within 6 inches of Theoden. So that's kind of an overview of what a Legendary Legion is. I'll actually compare that real quick to an army bonus. Let's look at that real quick. Alright. Actually, let's just jump straight to the Rohan army bonus and compare that, since that army mainly consists of Rohan models. So, Rohan's army bonus is Ride for Ruin and the World's Ending. Friendly Rohan models gain +1 strength on a turn in which they charge. Very good ability. Very good army bonus. Also completely different from the Legendary Legion bonus. So, these are things to keep in mind as you build your armies. Do you want to build a straight up Rohan army? Do you want to build a Legendary Legion? These are things you'll have to consider. And again, at this point, unfortunately, I do not have access to the Hobbit army book through Tabletop Simulator. I have the PDF, but it's not in here for some reason, which I find very surprising. But yeah. Okay, let's move on, because I don't want this video to be too much longer. I want it to be relatively simple for everybody. So, I also have here, we have a bunch of mods for models. That one was kind of a waste. Let's load this one real quick first. So, I like this mod because the person who did it basically took the other mod I'm going to show you and added all of the stats into the description of the model. So let's wait for it to load, and then I'll show you what I mean. And then this mod also has handy tool sets that you can use. Oh yeah, this is other very handy stuff. Alright, let's look real quick at this. So, let's take a peek at Aragorn. So, this is what I meant when I said that they already put the stats in. So, they literally have all the unit card details in the description, minus like the abilities and such. So it's very handy when you're trying to move fast. It just has everything laid out for you in the description. My problem with this mod, though, is it does not have all of the models. It has most of them. In fact, there were only a handful of times while looking through this mod, that I realized something was missing. This mod, I think, just hasn't been updated in a while, as compared to this one here that I'm about to show you. Okay, wait for it to load, and cringe at the Numenor misspelling. Yikes. So, this is basically the same thing, except the description is blank. They don't have the stats. in the description, like they did in the other. Okay. So, yeah, so this mod doesn't have anything in the description, no data. So that's what makes the other mod handy. But like I said, this mod has every model. Now, there's like 4 versions of that mod for Lord of the Rings Good, Lord of the Rings Evil, Hobbit Evil, and Hobbit Good. So, yeah, the only thing is I noticed as I was building some test armies that this mod is actually missing a few models. The Hobbit one for good forces. Because there is supposed to be a model for a much older Dane Ironfoot. And this is the only Dane that there is. Other than that, though... Actually, no, there is another model that's missing. Thorin the Second is also missing from this mod. I suppose you could just take this Thorin and rename him Thorin the Second, but it isn't literally the same model. If you actually search it up, it's not literally Thorin Oakenshield. So yeah. But yeah, that's how you get started. Let's reload the... No, sorry, not that. Let's reload this unit cards thing. There are some things that I want to go over real quick, other than the stats. So, on the unit card sheet, so it has the name of the model, and then it has titles like Man, Gondor, Infantry, Warrior. We'll go more into what some of this stuff means later, but Gondor, the faction, is the most important thing. Everything typically has to be of the same faction, unless it's like historical allies on the ally matrix, which we'll get more into that later, because I don't recommend people getting into the game start off with 2 factions in an army. It's better to just do one army, one solid army, or a legendary legion, one of the 2. And then the most important thing is this upper right hand corner as you're building your army, 10 points. So 1 guard of the Fountain Court, 1 model is 10 points. It's important that I specify that for people who have played other Games Workshop games, because it's 10 points for 1 model, not a squad. 1 model. And then you can do other modifications on these units, like replace spear with banner or shield. Sometimes it's just add a banner to a unit that already has like a sword or something. Like you can put a banner on the Warrior of Minas Tirith, right? And they'll still have their sword. But you can't have like a banner and a shield, right? You have 2 hands. The Warrior of Minas Tirith has 2 hands. He can't hold a banner, a sword, and a shield. It just doesn't work like that. So, Guard of the Fountain Court, 10 points. But if you put him with a shield, he's 11 points now. Which, shields are very important. They will add 1 to your defense value, which I would honestly say for good armies, I mean, it depends on your good army, but with my Gondorians, always do shields unless they're carrying a banner. Now, in regard to the point value, so what you need to know about army building, a lot of Games Workshop games, from what I understand, go up to, a lot of matches are up to 2,000 points. I definitely want to do some 2,000 point games. But 2,000 point games in this game will take a very long time. Just because every single model acts on its own. It acts independently, which is very different. So most games, as we're getting started and learning the game, let's say 300 point armies or 700 point armies. So as you're compiling your army list, keep in mind the... I love interruptions so much. Okay, so 300 point armies or 700 point armies. Maybe build a 1,000 point army just for fun at some point. But keep in mind the point value. Calculate the points as you're building your army so you know what you have. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought with all the interruptions, but yeah, I think we will call it really soon. But there's one more thing that I want to show off. Oh, no, I did just remember something. Okay. So, bows. Unless otherwise stated in, say, a hero's abilities, an army's bonus, or a legendary legion's bonus, there is a bow limit. So only 33% of your army can have bows in normal situations. So keep that in mind. If I have 9 models in my army, only 3 of them can have bows. Now, heroes don't count. Heroes do not count towards your bow limit. So you could have Madril, Damrod, Faramir, and a bunch of other ranger heroes, and they all have bows, but they do not count towards your force's bow limit. It's just your models that are not heroes. Your regular warriors, rangers, veterans, etc. These guys cannot be more than a third of your force, as long as they have bows. So keep that in mind as you build your list. I'll briefly explain why cavalry is good too. I think every army should typically have cavalry unless you're doing a legendary legion. But they get a charge bonus, and they actually have a movement of 10. Basically with cavalry, all of these stats get compared to a horse's stats, and whichever one's stats are higher applies. So a horse has a movement of 10. So the movement of 10 actually applies to the Knight of Minas Tirith, not a movement of 6. But all of these other values are higher than a horse's values. Except for attack and wound, it's the same. So these stats all apply to the Knight of Minas Tirith rather than the horse's stats. So keep that in mind. So movement 10, and then the other perk is when cavalry charges, they actually get a bonus attack, and they also get if they win a duel, they will knock the enemy prone and roll double attack die, which we haven't really explained battles yet, so maybe that doesn't make sense. But I wanted to just briefly cover that, just so you have an idea of how useful cavalry is. I would recommend every army has cavalry. At least some. Just, as long as, again, you're not getting a specific army bonus that's extremely handy, or a legendary legion bonus. Some legendary legions don't even allow cavalry. So, there you go. Last thing I want to go over, Battle Scribe. Download this. Just Google search Battle Scribe and download it. This is the best list builder that I was actually shown by Digital, another user on our server. So you want to click these 3 bars, and you want to hit Manage Data, and then you want to hit Add Data. I already have a bunch of stuff enabled, but what you want to look for is, where are we? Middle Earth. This is what you want to click. I noticed a few other Battle Scribe data collections that seemed like they were close to this, so don't get confused. You want the Middle Earth one, version 2.5.3, and it was recently updated in November. So this is the one that you want. This is the correct one. So once you've checkmarked this and any other data sets you want, go ahead and hit done. I'm updated, so I'm just gonna close out of that. So let's do a quick build. I'm gonna look real quick at, where's Rohan? Okay. Let's look at Aenarion real quick. He is a hero of valor, so he can have 15 troops. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Okay. So, Middle Earth strategy battle game. Let's name this... Let's name this Rohan 300 points. So, strategy battle game, battle companies is its own thing. We won't worry about that right now. Okay, so you have your force. This is important that you have this. If you don't have your force underneath the name of the roster, then you're not going to be able to add the units. So go ahead and hit OK. Now, we're really gonna make this a small army. So we're gonna have Aenarion, and then we're gonna... So click on him to see these options. So he's gonna be the leader, and we're gonna give him armored horse, shield, throwing spears. He has 125 points now. So we only have 175 points left to spend. But what I'm going to do is... Let's see. Where are our units? Hang on. This is the army bonus, so that that always goes. Oh, right, this is how we work. Okay. So, for adding units to the army, you have to click on the warband. I forgot about that. Building army lists in this game is completely different from building army lists in the other Games Workshop games. So, you click on warband, and then you are able to see all of the independent heroes accessible to Rohan. So we're not selecting any of these. We're just going to add a bunch of Riders of Rohan. We're gonna do this until, let's see. Alright, let's do this real quick. Alright, so hang on. Okay, we're gonna give this Rider of Rohan a banner. A banner is really good, by the way, because a banner basically all models within... Oh, wait a minute. Did it show what it does? Is that what popped up? Oh, okay, nice. So it actually, if you hover over something long enough, it tells you what it does. Okay. So a banner basically is something I would put in every army because it gives a single reroll to friendly models involved in a fight within 3 inches. Now, from what I understand, this is for duel rolls only, to see who wins the duel. So this is a very handy thing. It won't do a reroll for a 2-wound roll, which we'll get to all that in a different video. Now, yeah, do you remember that you can't take a bunch of bows and... Wait a minute, what? Hang on. I'm confused by this. So, all Riders of Rohan have a bow? Interesting. Okay, I'll have to look into why Battlescribe is doing this. Because, you're supposed to have only a third of your force with bows. I might have to look into the Riders of Rohan again, because there might be a special rule. Okay, hang on. Okay. Sorry, that was... Okay. So, I'm gonna give a bunch of these guys throwing spears. throwing spears, while ranged weapons, are not bows. And they do not count towards any ranged weapon limit or whatever. But throwing spears are basically a free attack you get while charging. It's an attack that happens during the move phase. So theoretically it's possible for a Rider of Rohan to charge an orc, throw a spear, kill the orc, and charge another model, as long as they still have movement. So throwing spears are very good to put on Riders of Rohan. So put it on as many Riders of Rohan as you can. We are at 300 points now, and we have 10 warriors. So really, only 3 of them should have bows. Wait a minute. Oh, there's a problem. Why is there a problem? Fine. Okay. So, really, only 3 of these should actually have bows. Battle Scribe is just being weird. And I don't know why. So, when you click on the Rider of Rohan, you can customize whether it has an axe or a sword. I would just do 50-50, personally. Axes and swords do actually have different abilities. You can actually look at those in the Middle-earth SBG map that I loaded first. This one here. It has the rulebook, so you can see for yourself the difference between axe and sword. You just have to browse the rulebook. So it should have everything in there that you need to worry about. That being said, I think that about wraps this up right now. So this is a good 300 point army. In the next video, oh wait, hang on. Okay, so keep an eye on this exclamation point as you build your army, because this shows you have an error. Now sometimes this is just being funky and weird, but they want an alliance level. So just click on it and check historical allies to make the error go away. Oh, now it wants me to add this. Okay. So make sure you add the army bonus that you see in the book, in the mod, which is this for Rohan. As for the alliance level thing, it's honestly weird, because the only option is historical allies, which doesn't make sense because there are other tiers of alliance level, and you shouldn't even have to check historical allies when your roster belongs to just one army. Rohan isn't historical allies with itself, so this kind of weird. I don't know, I also haven't fiddled around with Battle Scribe a whole lot yet. I was building my armies before I knew about Battle Scribe. So there's no exclamation part up here. You're done building your army. Congratulations. Go ahead and save the roster, and we're gonna just, yeah, keep that name, Rohan, 300 points. And this is your test army. So go ahead, build whatever armies you want. DM me if you have questions. I will do future videos about this. I will do a video on importing your roster into Tabletop Simulator, so you can actually get this as a document within Tabletop Simulator that just shows your whole army list. And I will actually, when doing that, also actually show you how to save your army in the game. Just this video is dragging on too long, and I don't want to make it even longer. So, yeah, tune in for next time, as I will hopefully cover every aspect of this game in time.